Former President Donald Trump is set to turn himself in today in Georgia, where he's accused of conspiring to undermine the last election. He's joined by a range of co-defendants who've already surrendered to face allegations including poll worker harassment and trying to break into voting machines. Nikole Killion is just outside of Atlanta's Fulton County Jail, where Trump will be booked. Nikole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Anne Marie. Former President Trump will be treated just like any other criminal defendant who comes to this jail, complete with fingerprinting and a potential mugshot.
Former President Trump said he will proudly be arrested when he turns himself in. Trump joins at least 9 other co-defendants who have surrendered this week, including his former personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, who was charged with 13 counts for pushing false election claims in Georgia. Allegations he denies.
This indictment is a travesty. I'm being prosecuted for defending an American citizen.
The former New York mayor built his career taking down the mafia with RICO charges. Now he faces his own racketeering charge. Giuliani's bond was set at $150,000, and he was spotted at a bail bond facility shortly after he was booked.
Who's putting up his bail?
One of Giuliani's attorneys said he only posted a percentage of his bond, and sources have indicated he has struggled with legal costs.
Fees, I can assure you that regardless of any fee situation, he's going to be receiving the most effective representation possible. That I can guarantee.
John, we saw
Late Wednesday, a federal judge denied requests from 2 of Trump's other top aides, former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and ex-Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark. Both were seeking to delay their surrender, but will now have to turn themselves in by Friday or face a warrant for their arrest.
And back here at the jail, we know that there are a number of protesters who have called for a rally this morning ahead of the former president's surrender. We just saw at least one person pass by thus far, but local and federal law enforcement remain on high alert and plan to lock this area down later today. Anne Marie?
So, as we mentioned, there are a number of co-defendants when it comes to this case. Some have already surrendered. Do we have any idea, with the clock ticking, whether or not others will surrender today?
Well, it's certainly possible. You know, it's not anything that they broadcast in advance, but we know that the majority of the defendants in this case have secured a bond agreement, with the exception of a few. So those that have already been able to negotiate the conditions of their surrender, we expect would turn themselves in short order. But again, it's kind of up to them with respect to timing.
And we know that a federal judge rejected a request by former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to postpone his surrender. His attorneys were arguing that this case should be moved to a different court. Do you know what the game plan is here?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, you know, it's very clear that Mark Meadows and also former Justice Department official Jeffrey Clark, they have been clear that they believe that this case should be moved out of Fulton County into federal court. And so that's why they filed a number of emergency motions this week, trying to delay their surrender because they wanted that case to be heard first, or a decision to be made as to whether or not the case would be moved before they're subject to surrender. But basically, a federal judge struck that down and said that, you know, the statutory language didn't hold up and it didn't warrant an injunction in this case. Furthermore, you have the district attorney who made very clear in her response to Meadows, for instance, that she'd been very gracious in allowing these defendants up to 2 weeks to surrender, and she said she was not going to make any exceptions. She also made a similar remark in response to Jeffrey Clark, you know, pushing back against his argument that it would be hard to try to scramble and get a flight here to Atlanta. And she said, you know, basically, that's not a good excuse.
So were they arguing, look, it's just too hard to get to Atlanta, or were they arguing this is a case that really should be in a federal courthouse and not in a state courthouse?
Well, it was a combination. I mean, obviously, their ultimate objective is to get this case moved to federal court. But until those proceedings could be held, they wanted basically a stay on them not having to surrender or be arrested. And so from that standpoint, that's where the federal judge stepped in and said, well, I can't really do that. You're kind of subject to the conditions set by the district attorney, again, who weighed in with her opinion, saying that, you know, she's not going to grant any exceptions to these two.
And then there's Rudy Giuliani. He surrendered yesterday, but he had someone with him, a former New York City Police Commissioner, Bernard Kerik. He's not a defendant. Why was he with Giuliani?
I asked him that, and he declined to comment, but it appears that he may be assisting the former mayor in this process in some shape or form, although we're not exactly clear on that. But that being said, in terms of Giuliani coming down here, for instance, he didn't even have a lawyer here in Georgia. We just learned who that person was yesterday morning. And, of course, that bond agreement was settled, where we saw the former mayor subject to a $150,000 bond. His attorney later said that he got a surety bond, which means he only had to put up a percentage of that. But this has really been a pretty humbling experience for the mayor. He did say on his Twitter X, or his X show, I should say, I guess it's no longer Twitter, his X show last night, that, he did pass by some of the inmates in the jail, and he's, said that he really wasn't emotional about this, and obviously he defended his rationale as far as his involvement after the 2020 election, really expressing no regrets in how he handled himself, even though now he's facing some 13 counts from his activities.
Yeah, he certainly is, and it was sort of shocking to see that mugshot. Nikole, thank you very much.
You bet.